festivals yet, or is there?
It's been accepted into a couple festivals in Canada, but the movie's actually only been out since October 5th. This is only our second screening, and I can't remember if I said that at the beginning, but the world premiere for it was in our hometown of San Francisco, October 5th. So this is only the second screening, and we love London, so we wanted to do it here for the second screening. And so yeah, it's very much early days. So, but so far, yeah, it's been accepted into 2 festivals, and we've entered it into a bunch more. So we'll see.
You said you drew a lot of your designs with spiders. Why is that?
Oh, well, the initial sort of the genesis of the project really was like, you know, in the fall in San Francisco, like that's when all the orb weavers kind of gather in gardens, and we name the spiders in our backyards. They get really big. You know, it's fun to name the fat ones. You know, I mean, they're just like, you know, so
you got to be proud of them.
So yeah, exactly. They eat a lot and they get a name. So, anyways, we named one Elliot. And I had read something that I really don't know if it's scientifically true about that orb weavers eat their webs every night and then rebuild them. I don't know. That seems like a pain in the ass. But that struck me as something.
Self-sustaining though as well.
Sure, and you know, very high standards. You know, I mean, like, yeah, like if you can destroy your house every night, like, this isn't good enough. Like, yeah. But anyways, that struck me as something that was like very OCD to do, and I personally suffer from OCD problems, and really sort of that was sort of a catalyst into also. You know, there's a very literal, you know, kind of ham-fisted metaphor for, you know, the web of the internet, and also, you know, being very critical of the way that people interact with people online, as well as like singularity. And so, you know, where I was very interested in where like human consciousness was going. So in this really weird roundabout way, like, you know, the spiders sort of got the things rolling, and you may or may not have noticed that a lot of the costumes in the movie have 8 eyes.
Yeah.
And
so
yeah, there's a lot of aesthetics that's very spidery. And as far as the spider element goes, that's about as far as it goes, but it did play into some of the social commentary of just how people treat each other, and also just the lack of humanity. Even you may have noticed, obviously, in the movie, the way that some of the characters interacted with each other was very strange, very broken dialogue, and without any sort of sense of consequence. And so
they've forgotten how to communicate.
Yeah, it's very much, a lot of the communication in the movie is very broken.
Yeah.
So that all came
They're
from...
too used to the monitors in front of the faces.
Yeah, and even when second Elliot is talking to second Bianca, like it's not a quality conversation. He's obviously an asshole. So, but he's only thinking about himself, you know, and she's just desperate to make a connection. And even though she's aware that this really kind of sucks, you know, so, but it's a very long-winded way of answering your question, but yes, started with spiders.
What's a dick fairy?
Cassandra is the dick fairy because there were these things in the walls, obviously, that were actually something that he maintained. We definitely wanted to go away from like a very literal, like you could have gone with wires or whatever to be like, you know.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, you love this question, but anyways, so we had to wiggle these things in the walls that, you know, Josh, the main actor, would tug on. And no one really had the right touch, but Cassandra had a way of wiggling them.
The masterful wiggler.
And she would kind of teach people how to wiggle them. And, you know, obviously in the movie they aren't dicks, but I mean, you know, on the set we call them
It's the new
dicks.
fake Shemp, he's a dick fairy.
It's a dick fairy, yeah, so...
Not a lot of people are familiar with hand puppetry, but that's the real reason why I was good at it.
Yeah, you're the dick fairy. So.
Chief dick fairy.
Yes.
How long did it take to shoot?
The movie took 4 years to make, mostly because like every time that we shot something, we had to save up $1,600, and so we'd have 1 month to build the sets, and then another month to plan some shoots. And also our main actor almost lost his legs because he had a diabetic problem, and that was really scary. I mean, we were all really worried about him, but he turned out okay, and there's you know, even in the movie, I know when there are certain scenes when he's really powering through some pain. So, you know, he's a good friend of mine, and he has no acting experience, so he was just a real trooper to do it. But yeah, over about 4 years it took to make.
Actually, what was the overall budget, and where did most of it get spent?
It was, the overall budget was just shy of $8,000, and most of it was spent on the space rentals. And then you had latex and then just costume materials. All the actors worked for free. We worked for free. I mean, no one really got paid. We paid them in food and any alcohol.
Food was good.
Yes, and
Was
any
good.
alcohol we could give them. And, you know, over the last 4 years, I mean, everyone just continued to show up because they were just really great people. I mean, honestly, you know, it took 4 years, but it was never a bad time. Like, everyone involved was really, really wonderful. So I think, you know,
It's
it's
like you
lucky.
can see every penny spent on the screen though as well. Because
Pretty
everything
much,
was designed just, you know, so meticulously. You could see where it all went, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of latex just slapped down, and you just sort of see it, and you do it. That's, you know, when you don't, you know, I think there's a lot of low-budget filmmakers here tonight, like, you understand, it's just like, you just do what you have to do with what you have to, you know, make it happen.
It just looked, yeah, it's like every shot was so kind of, was an assault really.
Well, that's good.
Actually, overall, how much footage did you actually shoot? To how much ended up on
We
screen?
shot about, I think it was north of, there were, I believe, 37 2-hour tapes, and we didn't finish them all. I want to say there was about somewhere around 60 hours of footage. So you figure 60 hours to get 60 minutes, you know. It's kind of funny. But sometimes, I mean, you know, and it was only a 2-camera thing. There were only ever 2 cameras at a time, so, you know, so about 30 hours a camera.
Craig.
Yeah.
It's like a super accomplishment, I think.
Well,
I just want to know what you're gonna do next.
Yeah. Where'd you go from there?
Well, actually, the next thing we're doing, I mean, you may or may not have noticed at the beginning of the movie there was a Dreams for Dead Cats Productions thing. Cassandra and I, you know, worked together on everything. And before this movie, we shot a short that Cassandra directed called Wire Boy, which was also shot on VHS. And in a lot of ways, it was a precursor because it explored a lot of the same sort of, you know, concepts. But this just kind of took it a little bit further, and the next thing we're doing is actually Cassandra's movie, which is Tearful Surrender, and it's a horror anthology that it's like 3 different stories, and it, you know, primarily is around a succubus, but we're actually shooting that, at least the first part of it, Tearful Surrender, that segment is going to be in Wales, so hopefully by the end of this year or early next year we'll have secured the funding to do that. And so that's what's next, and that will not be on VHS.
But it will be weird.
It'll be weird, but oh yeah, for sure. So that's what's next, and then after that, I have another sci-fi feature that I would like to do, and I'm only beginning to sort of piece that together. So we'll see. But
Did you edit it as well?
yeah, I did edit it as well.
Very good.
Well,
What
you
did
know.
you edit on?
Just Final Cut Pro
Yeah.
10 unabashedly. I know that gets like a lot of people are like, oh fuck that, you gotta use Premiere, but
No, no.
I'm a simpleton. I'll use Final Cut, but but you know, as I'm sure a lot of you know, like I mean, you know, again, there's like a lot of credits that are like Cassandra and I, Cassandra and I, Cassandra and I, and it's like. It's not so much to be like, oh look, we did so much. It's more kind of like a.
They're not even all there. We tried to simplify
Yeah,
them.
it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, it's like, I would like to get to a point where like that doesn't happen, you know, where you have, because the thing is like, the joy of making films is like collaboration, and our crew was very small, but they like brought a lot of ideas to the table, and for example, some of the sets were arranged by our second AD, Anthony, and he, you know, I mean, it was just things that I wouldn't have thought to do. So you're around these people and you let them come to the table with what they want to do, and that's where it's fun, and that's where the passion is. And I want to involve more people with what we do, so that there's more creativity. There's, you don't want it to always be like having to do so much yourself, but you will because you love it. But I think you see what I'm saying. Where
It's
like
clear that the work you put into it before you even started rolling is just like astounding, really. It's just like, wow, the amount of planning and
well, thanks.
right down to the designs. Everything's designed. It's for a film that low budget. You rarely get films that designed. From paper to execution.
And part of it too is like you just have to sort of figure it out. I mean, it's just like you have a budget of so much. You're making materials out of this, and so it's like, and again with your question about the VHS, it's like I said, if we had shot that in HD, I think it wouldn't have been as compelling, because it would have been like you would have seen the nuts and bolts. It would have been laid bare, and instead like there's a little more darkness, there's a little less light, and you get to design the light a little bit more and create a world. So, that's you again. It's just you just try to do the best with what you have. So
it's just the stamina that goes behind that, though. That's the other thing. It's like when you're fighting to get the money to get to the next day, it's the stamina is what keeps you going, and it's hard to maintain that. So
yeah, it is. But
right from planning, it's like the fact that it got off the ground to filming is just incredible. Really, it's amazing.
Oh, thanks. Craig, you had another question?
Did you score to the film, or was it a bit of both?
Honestly, because my apartment is so poorly laid out, I just had San Francisco apartments are very small because it's very condensed in that city. There's 1 million people living in 49 square miles, so apartments are not very big. And our living room is divided up into 4 mini rooms. And one corner is like where we sit in front of a TV, where we have about 3 feet between us and the TV, and then behind that is the music area, and then to the left of that is where we store stuff, and then to the left of that is where we have makeup and the computer. And so I was stuck in I didn't have the luxury of scoring to the movie. So basically you'd have to record things and just hope they worked. And the happiest accident was during the dancer's sequence, where she's doing all that thing. The tempo seems to match perfectly, but I didn't have the ability to watch it, so that just happened. And yeah, trust me, I was like, oh, thank fucking God. Because it was just you can't.
Craig, at that point, I think you had seen it so many times it was in your head.
That's true. But yeah, anyways, it's just you really only have about a week or two to do the music at most, and so you just let it out and hope for the best, and yeah, you kind of have it in your head and just go.
It's great. It's really strong.
Oh,
really strong.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So just processing it, it's like an assault.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be kind of relentless. A lot of the inspiration comes from augmented reality and whatnot, and like I said, social media as well.
Yeah.
Which again, I hope that a lot of movies, the smartest thing to want to have something that was a bit of a sensory overload as your first film, but I did want it. I didn't feel like it would be a very I felt like it worked for the commentary for it to be maybe a bit intense. Which is why the runtime is, closer to an hour instead of, if that was an hour and a half, I think you might want to die. Yeah, any more questions? I know some of you have come from far away, so I definitely do appreciate that, so if you gotta run, you can. Otherwise, yeah.
Let's go upstairs and have a drink.
Thank you all for coming out. Seriously, it does mean a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jacobson.